Welcome to Three Takes. I'm Ishana.
I'm Minali.
I'm Mona.
Three women.
Three generations.
One family, unpacking the questions we all ask.
Okay, hey Dada, long time no see. What's the latest with you?
Meaning I'm going to literally see you in person tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. I am starting my new job as an attending, which is great. Literally been working 13 years in training to get to this point. So it's nice to finally be able to do that.
Woo, finally.
I know.
Like starting a job.
I know. And this year is really unique because I'm basically spending a day and a half in the clinic, seeing patients. And then majority of my work week is actually spent doing like remote editorial writing work. And so I have this hybrid model, which I have never been used to because all my medical training has been only in person, and I'm really liking it so far. I mean, I'm only 2 weeks in, but the level of like freedom and like I can work out in the middle of the day, like all these types of things that I didn't ever get to do before is like really refreshing to me.
It's really interesting that, Minali, you're talking about the hybrid work. And I remember during the pandemic when most of the company and the people has to adopt to work remote. It was a big adjustment from people perspective, from technology perspective, and culture, every perspective. And today, I was just reading an article that there was a discussion going on that now the corporate world wants all 5 days a week to be at work. So how does the future of work look? Where this remote work is going? So maybe this is a good topic to discuss about remote work.
So obviously the work from home lifestyle started when the pandemic hit. Maybe just to have an even playing field, do we all just want to briefly mention what work was like when COVID hit?
I mean, I'm happy to go first because mine was pretty straightforward. Obviously, I was healthcare worker, like frontline. I was doing my internal medicine internship at the time. So my very first rotation was actually in the medical ICU where we were taking care of COVID patients. But yeah, we were going in the hospital pretty much.
No
like work as usual.
No work from home.
Yeah, no work from home really. There were some clinics that were still doing virtual visits, but for the most part, everything had transitioned back by the time I started my training, which was a few months, after quarantine started.
For me, I can say that that time when we had our company, being a technology company and a software company, we already have that once a week, everybody was working. They had a day, whichever they want, they can work from wherever they are. And actually, our sales team and a lot of our people were already remote. So as far as the technology and the setup-wise, it was a transition, but not that big a transition. It did culturally and the activities and in, the things which we used to definitely changed. But a lot of my other colleagues and all of them, they were really not ready.
And you yourself, I know you talked about the tech team, but you and our dad were going into the office 5 days a week.
Yeah, we chose to go 5 days a week. So definitely it was a change in the sense that you are not able to see people. You are not able to connect, and everything you have to do on the online, the Zoom. But then you are saving time on commute. So there was a mixed things there.
Yeah, and my experience was I actually graduated undergrad in 2020. So I was actually sent home to finish my college completely remote. And then that turned into me starting my career remote. So while I had internships that were in person, I really started my career trajectory completely in a work from home, then transitioning into a hybrid model. And now, 5 years after graduating, I am actually going to be starting a role that is completely in person, let alone traveling almost every week. So lots of transitions between the pandemic and now.
Do you like working remotely?
I love working remotely. And I think this might be a hot take for my generation compared to maybe Mama, your generation. I think for a lot of us, especially who it was kind of like what felt normal to us of having the hybrid model, I love just the flexibility and the autonomy that I have in creating my own schedule and doing my own work. For example, I feel like I'm able to travel on Thursday, come back Monday, because I get the Monday and Friday to work from home. I can do laundry when I want. I can do my workouts when I want. But also, I'm still doing my work. But as we talked about in one of our earlier episodes on does work need to be meaningful? Like, I don't have that belief that I need to live to work. So the work from home lifestyle just suits my values and schedule better.
When I talk to people, it's not necessarily the location. I think they want that freedom and the flexibility.
For sure.
I mean, I think part of it, though, is like innately by working virtually through a computer at home, you do get more flexibility and freedom because you don't have to deal with traffic commuting in and out. That automatically saves you time to be able to do something else, like whether that's fitting in like a fitness routine or like answering emails that you haven't been able to, or like catching up on work. I do think that working remotely comes with more flexibility and freedom, unless like you guys can convince me the other way around.
I completely agree. However, my pushback would be, I think it depends on the level of management you are a part of. Because someone who I don't have people that directly report to me, like my responsibility is really my responsibility. But I remember when I've had to train new hires or incoming interns, it was so hard to like screen share with them and see if they were actually like processing information. And that would just take more time out of my day that I had to dedicate towards training someone else. So the higher up you go, the way you train and collaborate with others can become more difficult. But if you are an independent contributor, I do think that you get a ton of flexibility with the work from home life.
Yeah, and I think you also have to keep thing in mind that I was one of the organization I was helping, and somebody came to
As part
me,
of your coaching business.
Yes, as part of my coaching business. So the individual shared with me, and that's Ishana, you are his age, so Gen Z. He was telling me that he really likes the remote work and all of them, but he said, I feel so socially awkward in the social setting because I started my career completely remote. So I really don't know when I go in person. So now they have to go twice a week, that how to really do it. And that made me also think. So we grew up always working in person, right? So that was a norm for us. But if for generation who are so digitally attached, and now if they don't have a real interaction, it's all through machines, like through phone, through laptop, through Zoom meetings, and what does it mean to your real connection? What does it mean to make friends? And he shared with me that his sister never came out of the room for so many months and has to go through the depression and everything because didn't make an effort to go out because everything was work and then order the food there and everything. So that part of that corporate culture where you will have lunches together and those things were also going away. So I think remote or not, you need to choose or you deserve the work that works for you. Because where we work may change, but the way you show up matters more, right? So if you know that for your values, what aligns better, then I think people also need to gear towards those kind of organizations.
I mean, what is your viewpoint, especially being in a field where like you can't operate on a patient like virtually, but were there changes you saw as like a lot of typical business corporations were going remote that the medical field were trying to incorporate? Do you think this work from home is changing for the better, for the worse? Like, what's your viewpoint?
I mean, at least from the medical profession, telehealth has definitely grown since the pandemic. There are still going to be sick people who you will have to see and examine in person in the hospital. But I do think it's changed the culture around like outpatient clinics. So now there's more and more trend to like come back to in-person examination, even in the outpatient setting in clinic. But there's still people who do virtual visits. And there's actually like ongoing debates and trying to figure out how can you bill appropriately for virtual visits? Can you charge people the same amount as in person? Right now you can't. So I think there's a lot of conversations to be had still on how to navigate telehealth. But I can speak as a neurologist where the physical exam is actually very valuable in terms of how we manage patients. Do we need to get imaging based on an abnormal finding we see on the physical exam? There is absolutely value in doing an in-person history and physical exam in patient care. And I'll stand by that for sure. Does everything need to be in person? No. So like if I see a patient who has migraine, who's been stable on the same medication regimen for the past 5 years, it can be like a 10, 15-minute virtual check-in. So I think it just depends on the context and the patient situation.
There's kind of like blurred lines there too, though, of is this like an exception? Like, how do you make a standard of, okay, is it 5 years that you have a migraine, that you've been on the same medication, and then that becomes virtual? Like, I feel like your field is a little bit, you're actually like saving people, whereas I don't know what I'm saving, like in some of the work that I do.
Yeah, a lot of the decision making in medicine also comes down to clinical intuition. But now that I'm doing the hybrid model, I like that I can have the best of both, in the sense of I don't feel like I'm missing out on work culture or collaboration, because I still have a couple of days a week that I'm going in person. Yeah. But at the same time, like, knowing myself, I'm actually more productive at home. I don't have as many distractions. I'm able to get in the zone a lot more than when I'm interrupted by conversations with people here and there, or small talk, or let's go out for lunch. I do find that, like, working from home, I tend to be more productive. But I know that's not the case for everybody.
But I think that's where the argument for people who are pro going in comes into place. Like, those small interruptions and interactions are critical towards like development, growth, just like understanding culture. So I'm with you in that page. I just think that's like what the devil's advocate.
If I reflect back, that if I started my career fully remote, how would it be? So I definitely think the hybrid approach is great, because I think it gives you the flavor of both, be in person and then sometimes be wherever location you are still productive. But I think I would have not learned and grew if I was completely remote, because the small interactions, the meetings, and the things what I was able to observe and learn really came because of the interaction I had, the emotional understanding, able to share information, able to learn a lot of tools and tricks by watching people sitting next to your desk. I think that all came because of in-person. So if I have to choose, I would choose hybrid. For me, 100% remote probably, at this stage of my life, it works. But when I was growing my career, probably for me, the hybrid would have been the best approach.
I'm curious to get, your guys' thoughts as people who have mainly actually been in person compared to remote, because I'm actually having the opposite transition where I'm very used to working hybrid to now going in 5 days a week as a consultant or traveling to a client. I think some of the fear that I have is some of the pros that we were talking about is that flexibility and autonomy over my schedule. And there's a little bit of anxiety correlated to, is that kind of going to be stripped away now that I am in person every day?
That's a good point. And one thing we haven't really mentioned is going to the office 5 days a week does come with physical exhaustion too. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to commute. That can be tiring. I think pro and con here is, like, you basically have to be on at all times, like when you are in person, right? Because people will see you, people can easily judge you, whereas behind a computer screen, like, people don't really know like what you're doing. You can tune out, you can check out. Whereas, like, I don't think you can really do that as much in person. So I definitely see like where some of the anxiety piece can come from. But you have to remember, it's like you did school for a really long time, and like you did go in person in class for like ever many years. So it's not like you haven't had experience with this.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like good advice for me, like, at all.
What? What do you want me to say?
You were just like, oh, you've done school, like you should be able to do it.
I think it's the mindset, right? Because something is introduced to us, right? And it works great. But understanding from the manager is also important, that do you think I can do that? Because I think in a lot of companies that manager has that autonomy to make decisions for their team. How do they see their team to work? What is important for them, and what can be done remote and what cannot be done remote? And then you have to go with once, if you know that the policy is the process, I think either you should be ready to adapt. Otherwise, people should really find the options which work for best
and
for them.
Yeah, it's like, I know what I'm signing myself up for. I think it's more on dealing with the transition where it doesn't feel so abrupt, but I'm also not so focused on what used to be and not what's going to come. But Mama, do you think, especially because you have worked with a lot of executives and C-suite level employers, what is their viewpoint on remote work? Do you think it's here to stay? Do you think we're going to go fully forced back into 5 days a week?
So I think there are definitely a mixed views. A lot of people do think that I think they need to bring the team back. And the reason is that some people took advantage of that flexibility. So that really impacts the rest. So what happens is that you cannot have different rules in the process for everyone, right? So if you have to standardize, that's why the companies are saying, okay, 3 times a week come back or 5 times come back, because they have seen that the culture part you are saying, the connection part, right, and the productivity part. So I think there is a different aspects of a business, right? Making money, the growth, productivity, the culture, the connection, and the same for the employees as well, right? So I think they have to really see what really matters to them. But yeah, there are many business leaders and CEOs, they want their people to come back. And I think they are letting their managers and team decide that what works the best for them to some extent.
Going to your point about, some people taking advantage of the flexibility, I was actually reading a story recently where the Bolt CEO, so Bolt is like a European ride-sharing company, they used to have unlimited PTO, but what they found is that the quote-unquote bad employees would take off more time, and whereas the good employees would not take off any time. And so they've just created the standard now where everyone has to take 4 weeks off PTO. And like you can gain more PTO like with tenure. But I think that's what a lot of thought leaders, a lot of business leaders are thinking about is how do we set an even playing field and create certain parameters around remote work? Because quite honestly, like I don't think remote work is ever going to go away completely. It is here to stay in a certain capacity, but I think people are just trying to define what capacity that's in.
I think that connects very closely with boundary setting. Part of the anxiety I feel is this fear that my 9 to 5 is now going to become a 6 to midnight because I'm like in the office, and it's harder to like leave work rather than just shut the computer off when I'm like at home. So I think to Mama's point is when you talk to your manager or your team, like what are the expectations of this work? Because like there should be boundary setting regardless, where I should still be able to have the flexibility. I need to sacrifice and adjust some of it, absolutely. But I feel like whether it's in person or remote, I should still be able to have the things that I do outside of work. It might just look differently.
Something to keep in mind also that every company and every employee, they work in a different way. So it's not like a standard process. Each companies have their own things. And also I think working from home doesn't mean that you can shut down anything. Actually, a lot of time working from home means you are really always on the computer, replying to the email, replying to the things. So I think regardless that you work in the office or work from any other location, the boundaries has to be set, because otherwise you'll be always working. So one of our organization development manager in our company, she told actually Manoj, who was the CEO at that time of the company, that he responds to the email in the midnight and all of them. And that's really not a good example for employees, because if the CEO is going to respond that late, or sometime when I reply back to that email, then employees feel that the team feels, well, they should also do the same thing because it's coming, or even any leadership team and all of them. So I think it is important that as a leadership, they set the example of how they want the company culture to be.
So something my manager did, because sometimes there would be emails sent outside of office hours, is in the signature, there's a note that we may be sending emails outside of typical office hours, but we have no expectation that you need to reply to us within those hours.
Oh, that's nice. It's almost like a disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tend not to send emails out like over the weekends And if I do, then I schedule send it so that it doesn't show up in people's inbox until Monday morning.
We're all talking about like work from home and how we're so good at it. But I feel like there's also some like things that we do. Like, have we ever like worked on a couch or on the bed, and has that like affected our productivity?
Yes, I have, but not as much. Usually I try not to sit on the bed and all of that. Usually I like to sit on the desk, or, I might sit on the breakfast table or a dining table, but not necessarily in the bed.
If it's like a Zoom meeting that I can just be a passive observer and don't need to turn my camera on, like I will do a workout and just have it in background.
Oh, yeah.
But I have done while cooking. I have done when if I'm there, like I will be in the kitchen. If I don't have to participate, I will be listening, but I will be in the kitchen island.
Okay, next question. Do you guys wear sweatpants, or do you fully dress up when you have a video call?
I wear comfortable pants, but then the top is nicer.
Dressed up.
For me, comfortable, but if it's a client meeting and all of, then I will probably dress up.
The full way, like bottom and top?
No, just the up to, it shows on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I kind of wanted to also bring up is I actually want to know some pro tips from you all, since the remote work part of this is so new to me. My workspace is in my master bedroom where my bed is. And have you had like tips and tricks just in terms of even just the physical design of your workspace so that you're not as distracted and you're more productive?
Especially if it's important meetings, like I don't have my cell phone on the table. Like even right now when we're recording this, like my phone is nowhere near me because I don't want to get distracted. And I think it's very easy from a design perspective to just have your phone and like clutter everywhere. Like I try to keep it very clean. And then I try to have my desk as far as the bed as possible, because I feel like the bedroom is designed for like sleep. And the workstation is like, you have to be like super awake. But again, not everyone has that ability to do that.
Yeah, so I know somebody at work, they had to really put their desk and all that in their closet, because when the people were working from home, and if you're in a one bedroom, a small, like, there. So I think you have to discipline yourself. So for me, there was a time when I started working from bed, and I just did twice. And I thought I was becoming really lazy because it was such a comfort to do in that. So I have to make a rule that if I work from bed, I will write in my diary that, okay, you did it twice a week, like then you're out. You cannot do it. You will have to go out of the office.
You have worked from home in your bed. You said you didn't earlier.
No, I just did twice. Like it's not like that I have never done it, but I've seen you guys guys do it. So I did it twice there, but not like lying down or anything, just sitting on the bed, like, when it's like, just put as a comfort. But no, I absolutely don't like to work from bed at all.
Sometimes I also find it helpful to like stand and work, because like sometimes when you sit, your posture, like you can become a little bit more kind of slacking. And like depending on where you are, sometimes if it's just like a change of scenery, even going to like a coffee shop nearby, or just, I don't know, like a separate space that's like not the apartment, helps as well.
That's a good point, actually, because my step count is definitely significantly lower in these past couple of weeks than it was going in. So it's like, yeah, even though I'm able to get like a 30-minute fitness workout in, like my steps are nowhere near as much. So
I think to Mama's point, she had brought up that sometimes you can find yourself just like struggling to even put the computer off if you are working remotely, because you can just be go. Have there been anything that you guys have like internally designated as like boundaries? Like for me, it's like I do not like eat my lunch when I am working. Like even if it means eating earlier or eating later, I will like eat at the dining table, because I don't want to associate me eating my lunch break while I'm like working.
One thing I've tried to work on with my career coach is setting boundaries with how often I check email. So really limiting like how often I'm checking my email on my phone to 2 to 3 times a day, and then only checking my email if it's on the computer and it's like working hours. So that's something I'm trying to implement. It's so much harder than it is to actually implement in practice, but it's something I'm working on.
Yeah, so I usually do that. I don't respond to any email on the weekends. So even if I've seen it, I don't respond. And sometimes I'm working on it. I'm not as good. I do check emails often, But I think responding, I try to respect other people's, okay, what if this is late, or what if it is weekend, if they have some plan.
We can go ahead and start with our takeaways.
I think that you have to set the boundaries. So it doesn't matter where you work, home or, any location or any office, you have to set the boundaries. And I think remote work is here to stay.
Yeah, some actual practical tips that you both mentioned. So keeping your phone away from the desk. You can put your desk in your closet if needed, away from your bed. And overall, understanding that there are pros and cons for each, and sometimes you may have to adapt depending on the different scenario, right? One thing I also wanted to mention is there are some industries that just don't have the luxury of remote work, right? Like service work, certain healthcare work. It's just this is a luxury that we're talking about, honestly, in terms of being able to choose remote versus non-work remote.
You took my takeaway. My takeaway is I think actually in this conversation for you that I actually have a lot more respect, not that I disrespected, but just in terms of, medical workers, healthcare workers, a lot of service workers who don't even get the ability to choose. And for me to have that privilege is something I think I've really realized in this conversation. So honestly, just having a lot of respect for people who are out in the field working 5 to 7 times a week.
Yeah, and actually a lot of people in the manufacturing and medicine, there are who don't have that flexibility. So
Definitely.
Very, very grateful for you're able to do the hybrid or the way we want.
I think this would be a good plug for any of our listeners if you have tips and tricks on boundary setting for yourself, whether it's working from home or just when you're having conversations with your managers, how you're really able to do that, because I think boundary setting is something that we all can work on.
Thanks for joining us on 3 Takes. If something we shared sparked a new thought or opened up a conversation with someone you love, we want to hear about it. DM us on Instagram at 3.takes, email us at connect@3takes.com, or visit us at www.3takes.com. And if this episode meant something to you, share it with another mother, daughter, or sister in your life. It's how we grow and keep the stories moving.
You can't yawn in the middle of me talking.
Maybe she's just bored with what you're saying.
Because she says such a long sentence. Yeah, I get lost after one.
Okay, fine. I'll rephrase it.